So with the rise of cinematic B-roll, I've always been thinking to myself, how come I can't shoot like a lot of these other people do? I mean, I've been really struggling, like mentally struggling with myself, saying and asking myself, come on, why can't you do this? You're just horrible with handheld shots. But then something happened. I had a revelation. I just woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? Let me step out of my comfort zone and let me try and shoot like James Matthews. I think I kind of pulled it off. Here's what I came up with shooting a HotPocket. Roll the B-roll. So here's what happened. I got invited to shoot with the Hurlbut Academy team. They wanted some content for their social media and I wanted to help them out. So we decided to shoot a simple HotPocket preparation video. In this video, I'm gonna break down the exact shots, how I captured it, and if this video does well and you guys are enjoying this content, let me know in the comment section below and drop a like, because that way I'll release the second part to this video, which is the whole editing breakdown. Also, I just shot with Mike O'Hearn and Chef Rush, who is the current White House chef, and I did a lot of cinematic stuff with them as well. So if you want to see a breakdown of this video, okay, hold off. I don't want to spoil the whole video for you right away. So as I mentioned earlier, if you want to see a breakdown of how I edited that video, also let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget, this is all about stepping out of your comfort zone, and after I realized that I can capture these really cool shots, and after I started messing around with Final Cut Pro, like really diving deep into the editing, I became very confident when shooting these types of videos. All right, enough talk, let's get to the action. Let me break down how I captured these HotPocket shots. Now, first things first, we did not use a shot list. With using a shot list, we probably would have dropped the shooting time from 3 hours to maybe 1 hour. There is a lot of things that a shot list can help you out, especially when it comes down to framing, nailing the shots, and overall being more efficient. But us run and gun filmmakers, we rarely have shot lists in mind when we're shooting this cinematic B-roll. We usually plan it out with the talent in advance. We talk things through, and what really made this video so epic and seamless was that we actually planned the transitions before the editing process. So the number one thing you have to keep in mind is that when you're shooting for seamless transitions, you want to use foreground, whether it's color or the edges of a table. You want to make sure that the camera starts with that foreground, or actually begins to show that foreground and then gets that foreground out of the shot, because we can incorporate sliding transitions. Now, if you want to learn how to create masks and sliding transitions for seamless video edits, check out this video right here, and then there's going to be another video right here which will show you a breakdown of how to create these simple seamless transitions in Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro. So if we take a quick look at the behind the scenes, you can see how I'm actually talking to my buddy Ross and Chris, who's holding the iPhone and shooting this BTS. We're actually planning things out as we start shooting. So this is a complete improvised shoot. So in the beginning of this, I don't necessarily have the BTS clips to show you, but I'll break down this shot. So I told Ross that it'd be really cool to start off with him sliding the HotPocket out of the packaging, and you can see how seamless it already seems. I shot this at 120 frames per second with a 1/250th shutter, following that double shutter speed rule for proper motion blur, and you can see that when we slow down the footage to 20% to match a 24 frames per second timeline, things are just incredibly smooth. This is all done handheld. I dolly in just a little bit without taking any steps. I'm just making sure that my arms are into my sides, and I slowly push in with a little bit of a roll action. And while we're doing that, we're actually getting Ross, who is the man holding the HotPocket, to slide out the HotPocket out of the packaging. So we have two different forms of movement, the camera and the HotPocket, and the box, actually, that the third movement here is the box that is actually carrying the HotPocket is also coming out of frame. Now we do a hard cut to the next shot, which is Ross getting rid of the box and actually grabbing the HotPocket. And you can notice that I added a little bit of a sound effect to make the immersion even better for the audience. Now I want you to pay close attention because this is our first seamless transition of the video. I start going down under the table as Ross is dropping the HotPocket packaging. You can see here that as we keep going through the video, this is how our transition happens from one shot to the next. Now, because the edge of the counter or the table that I was shooting at had a very dark edging, I was easily able to transition to my next shot, and I was thinking to myself while I was shooting, what could be a great black foreground? And Ross was wearing a black jacket, so I was like, you know what? I need to start off with the black and then move out of the black and show the HotPocket being turned on the table. And you know what? It came out perfect. So when you're shooting this, keep in mind, what can you use as foreground to enter and leave the footage? And how can you start and end the clip with foreground to make sure that it becomes seamless in editing? Now, I know that a lot of us are not gonna have foreground always present in these shots, but don't worry, I will have an editing tutorial where you can create artificial foreground, or if you just didn't shoot it properly, I'll show you how to fix your mistakes, because in this cooking video that I shot, I did a lot of filming mistakes and I was able to cover them up in editing. So as Ross is spinning the HotPocket, I'm still moving out of his black jacket, and then he goes right into grabbing the HotPocket, and then I cut to another shot of him already grabbing the HotPocket. There was no need to do any foreground there because that was a very simple cut. We call it a continuity cut, and that made things seamless as it is without any necessary transitions or fades or masks. Now this specific shot was very difficult to do. Don't forget, I am in manual focus, and this shot for the most part is not in focus. Maybe Ross's thumb or right hand is in focus, but the packaging and the wrap over the HotPocket, definitely not in focus. And it's actually not even exposed correctly either, but because this is such a quick shot, the audience doesn't notice. But now that I mentioned it to you, it's probably gonna stick out like a sore thumb. I probably shouldn't have done that. But anyway, as he starts tearing the wrapper, I follow that movement with the camera. So I start dropping down as he starts opening the HotPocket, and this creates that immersion effect. The audience is actually a part of the experience when opening up the HotPocket with Ross. The end of the shot is also very important because I black out the frame completely by using the surface of the table. This is going to be our next transition. Now the next shot is of me coming up from the counter. Again, I'm using the counter's edges to create that black masking effect. So again, it creates that seamless transition and makes everything flow. As I start revealing what's on the table, Ross flicks some crumbs into the lens. Now these aren't real crumbs from the HotPocket. We wanted to accentuate the texture of the HotPocket. So what we did, we took a few pretzels and just mushed them on the table, and we asked Ross to just flick it right into the lens. And this again is an immersion effect. It basically helps the audience taste the HotPocket without actually tasting it. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of like watching a 3D movie. Now, as we move on, there is an artificial camera boom shot. It looks like the camera is booming up, but that's actually not true. This was all done in editing. And again, I'll show you how to do this if you give me a comment and a like telling me that you do want to see the editing breakdown of this video. Now, the next shot, what made this cut even better for me was that I continued to move the camera up as Ross was throwing the HotPocket. So even though we had an artificial camera boom movement, it seemed more seamless because the camera was actually moving up on the next shot. Now, again, this was all done in manual focus, so this next shot was very technical and it took us probably 10 to 12 times to get right, because as Ross was flicking that HotPocket in the air, I wanted it to be center in the frame. So I tried my best to get it in the center, and I wanted things to be in focus. So what I did was I focused on his hand while he was throwing that HotPocket, so I knew for a fact that eventually the HotPocket would be in and out of focus.
Action. Oh, you caught it!
Also, a quick little editing tip, notice what happens to the sound. The backing track becomes muffled, and I added a little bit of a whoosh while he was throwing that Hot Pocket. Now here comes our next transition. This is another artificial camera movement. What I did in editing is I zoomed into the white tiles on the ceiling because guess what? The microwave that we were using in the next shot is also white, so I was able to easily blend in both of those shots together to make it seamless. And with the camera, I just did a simple slide handheld, and I was able to frame up properly on Ross's hand as he threw the Hot Pocket in the microwave. Now it's important to understand that I tried my best to follow his movement. So as he was throwing the Hot Pocket in the microwave, I tried my best to follow the Hot Pocket right into the microwave. This is another important immersion effect. After that, we kind of do a crossfade with black, and then we end up with the microwave button shot. And this is just a simple handheld camera movement. Again, 120 frames per second, so I was able to control the roll and control the whole movement really smoothly at 120 frames per second. And then again, I used the edges of the countertop to be my ending transition. And then we're getting close to the finishing shot. You can see how the edges of the table allowed us to slingshot into the next clip, and that is Ross opening up the microwave. It was just a simple sliding shot or dolly in. My hands were on the camera and I was just gliding against the wooden countertop. He then quickly whips the Hot Pocket across the lens, and that's how we transition into the final shot. So the final shot is the cheese pull of the Hot Pocket. Now this was very difficult to do because we could never get enough cheese in the center of the Hot Pocket as it is. So we had to actually massage the Hot Pocket and push all the cheese towards the center and then pre-cut the Hot Pocket. So that way when it was broken open, we got a clean cut with all of that cheese stringing along. And that 120 frames per second really helped us out with that. So that's exactly how this video was shot, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this content helpful, please give it a like and subscribe with those notifications turned on, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.